hybrid search and re-ranking. So for now, for lab 2, you don't need that because what we're doing here is just illustrating how RAG is different from without RAG. But when you start to work on your project, you will need this because the quality difference can be huge. So I will have to see which one works better. So I will either provide you a Cohere API so that you can use in your project, or we provide our internal re-rank model, embedding model, and re-rank model from the school business server. So you will just have to log into VPN to use those servers. Steven, go ahead.
Yeah, Professor, is there any way to like compare two models on the basis of their responses, which are not technical, so that we can tell which one gives us a better response?
You mean the re-rank model?
Yeah,
Or
so because can we like use the re-ranking model to actually display which model performs better?
um, you can do that, but you will have to do it out of DeFi. I don't think DeFi provides this functionality to allow you to look into the very detailed process. You will have to look at their code and see whether they save that in the process. I think they do, like because it's open source, right? You can actually
Yeah.
connect to expose their database. They use their PostgreSQL database, and then look at what they have saved. But to answer your question, I don't think looking at like the details here would be very helpful. I think what you should look at is you have a set of evaluation tasks, right? About this, under this question, I should get that answer,
Okay.
but I don't get that. And how relevant is the answer that my RAG system retrieves back? So I think that's something that you need to evaluate. And towards end of today's lecture, I'm going to introduce several evaluation frameworks. So take a look
Okay.
at this. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That would
yeah,
definitely. Thank
yeah.
you.
I think you're going to do that. You're going to do that for the
Yeah.
first deliverable, the first update of the project. You're going
Okay.
to think about what's the way to evaluate your project. So
Exactly. I want
yeah,
to know
yeah,
that because using a model gives us technical parameters, but I want something that even like non-technical person could even understand without.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We can. Well, we're going to talk about that like
Okay. Perfect.
in about 1 hour.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Cool. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question, Professor.
Go ahead, BJ.
So in something like STAMI, where you have multiple different areas of questions coming in. It could be related to financial aid. It could be related to majors that are offered, et cetera. What
Mhm.
you're saying is that that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to put those bits of information, the documents related to those different types of queries, into different knowledge bases. You might want to just from a maintenance perspective, but what you're saying is it doesn't necessarily improve performance.
Mhm.
Where I was going with this was I would have thought that in something like STAMI,
Mhm.
the first set of prompts to the user would be along the lines of what are you trying to do? Are you trying to find out about financial aid? Or are you trying to find out about different coursework? Like a decision tree,
Mhm. That's actually a great question. It's very interesting. That's how we would think about this problem, right? So like we would always use divide and conquer, right? So we basically do the mental categorization and then do things. Um and like our evolved version of STEMI should do that. So it should direct things to different branches and do the search. And because each task now becomes smaller, you can do a much better retrieval and then synthesize it. Right? Let me show you this. I think this is a great question to talk about this. Let's take a look at this. So for STEMI, what we did was very simple, right? So we just added everything here. So what we are doing here is just relying on the quality of the retrieval model, right? We just like so far what we did there, I think it was working fine. STEMI can retrieve the relevant ones. So if you look at the context or the prompt, it talks about the tools, the workflow, the no information case, answering questions, and guidelines and other things. But it doesn't, for the prompt, it doesn't have any specific questions. It doesn't guide the chatbot about the specific questions. Why? Because if you look at our like the RAG concept, the context that gets retrieved, let's find one, right? So here, if you look at this query, I'm a UConn Stanford student, current student, what are the majors on the UConn Stanford campus? It uses 3 pieces of knowledge. So we retrieved 3 pieces of knowledge here, major offered at UConn Stanford campus, here list of majors at UConn Stanford, and here academic programs offered at UConn Stanford. So these are like the queries that's used, and then the response from knowledge. This is research and internship. Let me see what the other ones. Research and internship, and research. Basically, it's the same chunk get retrieved back, right? So then we have seen this in the office hour. Like this, oh, my screen is too small. But what like this chunk get used is to embed into the query as a context. And then that's the branch, like how STEMI does this in a without a branching way. It actually relied on the relevance of the retrieved knowledge to answer different questions. PJ, I hope like my explanation makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, and because I was also thinking of it in terms of if you had different types of people, different persona coming, how it would branch differently.
Yeah, so that's also a great chance to introduce this. So later, I'm preparing for some of the demonstrations. So what we're going to do is we're going to extend this RAG pipeline into a workflow. And here is an example provided by DeFi. You can add that into your own workflow in your workspace. So if you look at here, this is the so-called, can't make this go away. Okay, so let's just look at this. So this is what DeFi made as an example. So when it's the intent recognition customer service. So it's a customer service chatbot. So instead of coming in and answer it right away, they have a conditional branching. Okay, so and a question classifier. Okay, so if the question is about this, they will go through some small models. If it's about that, it goes to another model and goes to another model. That's what we are talking about, PJ. So in reality, when you really when you push the performance to say 70, 75%, and you with the vanilla RAG setup, it might be very hard to push it further, like to 90, 95%. Then you will have to still use the way we think about things, divide the task into smaller tasks, so that first, the documents can be more relevant. Second, the large language model will have a less difficult time interpreting what gets retrieved back. And that will improve the overall system performance. Great. Any other questions? Cool. Let's move on to the next step. Okay. So some techniques that we can use to make this process even better. So the first ones that we are going to focus is here. Once the chunks are retrieved back from the vector database, right? Now we get the relevant ones. We can do re-ranking. We have seen this, and then once we have the ranked chunks, we can do consolidation and do something there. Okay, so let's take a look at some of